Hi guys, welcome back to another mykayaplus YouTube video. Today's topic will be interesting because we will be uh, starting back the English Premier League, right? So, and usually, I don't know about what you guys, but within our gang, we do have quite an active fantasy Premier League kind of arrangement. So, when we talk about fantasy Premier League, we'll go through some of the basics later, and we are not changing the mykayaplus YouTube into a fantasy league kind of discussion, but we tend to draw some similarities when we talk about picking, a team of football players is somewhat similar to doing stock picking. And if you guys are, subscribers of our stock pick and our so-called annual stock pick exercise, you know that we have also utilized the terminology of building a portfolio is just like actually choosing a football team. You need to have different stocks, different kind of characteristics, so that the whole portfolio actually can perform in good times and bad times. So without further ado, Chubei, I think some of our viewers might not be so familiar with what fantasy Premier League is. So what is it all about?
Yeah, I think I'm just risking my time to basically review my so-called stock pick or player picks for the upcoming Premier League. But of course, still finalizing. But I think it's quite interesting, like what Jupan has mentioned. It's like picking your stocks and setting up your team. You have like the defenders, you have the midfielders, you have the strikers.
Yeah.
Is as good as your stocks. Maybe Jupan, you can give some example. What does it mean, like a defender in investment or in stock investment? Yeah.
Yeah, I think if we do have female viewers who might not still understand football, so basically in this particular game, you need to choose 15 players. So 11 players will play on the field, and their points are actually accrued or collected based on real team performances. So, for example, now Chubing has a team of players on his so-called laptop screen right now. So these are the players that he chose, and he believes that these are the players that will perform coming Saturday, Sunday, when the new league actually kicks off, right? So I think in some similarities, we also do the same thing for stock picking as well. And when we invest, because we buy onto a certain company on our laptop screen and hoping that this company can, the share price can go up, the company can give us dividends, and we actually benefit from it in real life as well. Right. So I think you already have showed your team, and of course you have the goalkeepers. All the goalkeepers' main job is to make sure that the team does not concede goals. The defenders will help the goalkeeper, and then your midfielders will help in defense and also help in attack. And then last but not least, you have the strikers out there to actually help you score goals. Right. So this is also the same theory that we also enforce when it comes to stock portfolio picking. You need to have strong, stable companies like your banks and REITs that will act as the defenders of the portfolio, because they will tend to be more stable in certain or most uncertain period of the time. So say, for example, if there is even if there's a market turmoil or turn down, your bank stocks will not drop 60-70%, right? At most 15-20%. Maybe some banks will hit 30%, but they will not go as bad as your growth stocks that can actually go down by 60, 70, 80%. So I think these growth stocks also are important, because if they really do perform, they can actually help you have an overall portfolio earn more money as well. So yeah, the so-called high growth stocks are what we also call the winners in the portfolio. So these are the players that can get injured easily, but if they really move up in the right direction, then it can really help the overall portfolio. And then of course you also have some of the more stable but predictable kind of growth companies that serve as the holding midfielders in the middle. And then lastly, the other companies that can actually help you do much more predictable returns will be the companies that you designate as a striker. So it depends on different people. Like for example, for me, I would say that yeah, tech companies like Google, like Microsoft can be either midfield anchor or can I also be deployed as a striker in your overall stock portfolio.
Yep. So I think I'll take it from there. So why we think Fantasy Premier League is a good way to set up your portfolio, because the starting fund for us as a player is like 100 million, right? And
Yep.
then you can use 100 million. It's a fair start, and then you can just buy any player from the market. And then of course, depend on their past performance, the past point they are able to generate in the past few seasons, they will be coming up with some value into it. So of course, the higher the value, it represent either in real life this guy actually perform, or in the past few seasons they manage to contribute a lot to the to this FPL or Fantasy Premium League. So it's as good as, let's say you plan to invest 1,000 per month. It's always same. Let's say you make it consistent. And this 1,000 is like this Fantasy Premium League. You're starting with 100 million. Every week you do some adjustment so that you can maximize your return. Is the same like stock markets. So you only have this much of fund. In order for you to actually make some changes to your formation or change some player, it's like you need to stock that is underperformed, and then either you cut loss, then you buy a new one.
Yep.
So it's also another angle is some of the player you can see, for example, this is like 14. 14 represent 14 million inside this game. And it's so expensive. You compare, you see some of it just start at 8. But for people like us, maybe we'll go for this guy. If you're not a football fan, you may not heard of this name, but this is the guy that performed like almost every single match in the last season. So this, maybe I can make a very good correlation. It's like Apple stocks. It always perform, for example. And of course, it is expensive for a reason. So all these
Yep.
things is of the angle that you can always think about it. And of course, you have like some traditional, more popular team, like Manchester United's, Arsenal's, and then every single season, or Manchester City's, right? But every single season, you have some team that can outperform. We can also relate this kind of thing to things like, depends on the different thematic kind of stocks. A certain season, let's say Brighton performed very well last season. It can also relate back to like your glove stock used to be performing very, very well 2-3 years ago. But then this kind of player or this kind of team is not as popular, so maybe it's not as stable as well. So this is all the thing that is quite relatable when you go into stock investment. But of course, we talk all these things from a stock perspective. But if you take a step back, like doing a normal investment, the defender is like your defensive asset class. Storing cash technically is like a defensive asset class. But of course, this is very, very, very defensive. But we just want to give you an example of when you set up a portfolio, like we always have this metaphor saying, don't put everything under one basket, right?
Yep.
And this is a good formation to start with. And always, if you're not familiar with football, this is one formation that is very, very, I would say, traditional, and yet a lot of people try to follow. It's like 4-4-2. You got 4 defenders, 4 midfielders, and 2 strikers. And during bad time, your 4 defender typically is the one that can cover you, like what Jupan had mentioned, like your bank stock, your REITs, for example. But during good time, and you want to take a little bit of offensive position, maybe you change it into 3 defender, 4 midfielder, and 3 attackers, strikers. So this is how you actually play along, depend on the macroeconomic. Of course, now it's a little bit unstable, recession may come. All those things is a little bit unsure. Maybe you go into more defensive mode. You can even go into 5 defender, 4 midfielder, and 1 striker. So all these things, some of the mindset that we wanted to share. And so happened that we are fans of, football fans, and this is something that we do on a weekly basis as a casual activity. I think it's a good sharing. Anything to add, Jupan, before we end the session?
Yeah, so I think some people might wonder that, wow, is it really that I need to have my 15 stocks or 11 stocks just to match, the number of players out there? I think this is just a guideline. Because at the end of the day, there are people out there who are more comfortable having a more diversified portfolio. But some people, they tend to prefer a very concentrated portfolio. And I mean, you do come across people that, put in 70% of their investments into stocks like Tesla, Apple. Also, they have a certain preference towards a certain stock that their portfolio is very concentrated. And you cannot say that that is wrong also, because at the end of the day, risk is definitely a very wide spectrum, and each person have their own risk. But I think you also mentioned just now that if you're starting new and you don't know a lot of basics about investment, and you still need to build a portfolio, yeah, start off with the most basic one, 442 for promotion. Start off with 5 stocks, 10 stocks, and eventually, when you obtain your certain technicalities and also understanding on, and also your personal preference, yeah, you can actually think that, oh, maybe 10 stocks is not enough for me. I want to do 20. Or if 10 stock is too much, then you shrink it down to 5 stocks. So it really depends on you. But the principle is the same, right? You would want to put more money into a specific player or specific company that you have the most high confidence about. And if you actually make a wrong call, just like if you bought a wrong player and the player doesn't perform, you need to be brave enough to change the player or cut loss. So I think that's where you see the similarities in managing fantasy Premier League. But sometimes people know how to play the game fantasy Premier League very, very well, but they fail to actually do the same or utilize the same concept and principle to manage their investment portfolio, right? Of course, fantasy Premier League is just fake money lah. It's just collecting points. But when it comes to real life investing, putting your hard-earned money into managing a portfolio of stocks, a lose or any losses in any stocks is actually a loss of your hard-earned money. So I think that is also one big difference that you need to take note of, right? You can use the same principle, but a loss in a fantasy Premier League is not equivalent to a loss in a stock investment venture.
Yeah, I think to summarize, of course, BD start with 5 stock, 10 stock. You also down to whether you have time to study about the stocks.
Yeah.
So for example, when I start with this formation, I always start with Liverpool because I'm a fan of Liverpool. I know how they perform. So maybe you are into REITs, so you know a lot of different REITs. So this is something you can start with because you're familiar with the industry. But of course, don't limit yourself into one industry. Like what we have mentioned, you have defensive and also you have offensive kind of stocks. Different asset class or different type of stock play a different role. If you only have defensive stocks, maybe during bad time you can perform, but then in long run you may not be performing as good as the rest. So these some of the key takeaway. Of course, if you have any comment or any preferences that you wanted to share some topics in the next video, feel free to put inside the comment. And if you like this video, feel free to give a like button. If you're MU fans, don't be offended because Chupan is an MU fans. I'm just a Liverpool fans, and we always have fun talking about each other. It's just like maybe you are Tesla fans compared to someone which is not a Tesla fans. Yeah, I think that's all for today. Remember to like, share these videos if you like it, and then we shall see you in the next videos.
Yep. Take care. Bye-bye.